All right, good evening, everyone. This is Dan Hines, National President of UPMA. Uh, I am not up on, my picture's not up on the screen, but I am here. I want to welcome you to this first of what we're planning to be monthly training sessions that we're going to have on a number of topics that are pertinent to you as Postal Service employees and as members of UPMA. With me this evening, hosting jointly is Lisa Roussel, who's a senior account manager with FedPoint. FedPoint oversees the long-term care insurance program. They have formed a partnership, sponsorship agreement with UPMA, and part of that sponsorship agreement was that they agreed to help us host these events. Also with us this evening, we have Patty Tranby, who is the field staffing and design consultant for U.S. Postal Service headquarters in organization design, the department that oversees the Form 150 program. And also on is Chad Smith, who works with with Patty in organization design. So Lisa, did you want to say hello or do you want to save that till later?
We can save that till later. I'm
Okay.
happy to talk with everyone. I want Patty to get right into her presentation. And Chad, I'm just going to pass you the ball.
So Patty is going to do her presentation, ladies and gentlemen, and she has asked that you hold any questions until the end. And if we don't have time necessarily to get to questions, I think all of you should have my email address at the national office. Please send the questions to me. I will get the answers from Patty and Chad and the team at headquarters, and we will publish those on the website. And we will also, I will respond to your emails with answers to the questions as well. So with that, we'll turn it over to Patty.
Thanks, Dan. Just wait for Chad to put the content up.
Okay.
I'm really pleased to be with all of you this evening, this afternoon, depending on where you are. So let's get started with the PS Form 150 training. My name, as Dan said, is Patty Trenley. I am the Field Staffing and Design Consultant Team Lead for Organization Design. A little bit of information about me. I have been with the Postal Service for 35 plus years. Half of that I spent in operations, including some postmaster positions, and the other half I have spent in HR, along with complement management. So that's who I am. Next slide, Chad. So a little bit of history about the 150. It was actually developed in 1995. The automated portion of the automated program was developed in 1995 to replace the manual process. There was a task force assigned. They spent a year looking at everything that had to do with the postmaster's workload and management in the offices, and the program that we have today is a result of that review. If anyone is wondering why it's called a PS 150, that is because the actual form that we use, and I can remember using it, so dating myself just a little bit, was the PS 150. And that was the worksheet that we would use to fill out the data fields to have our offices evaluated. The 150 to this day continues to use standardized calculations and data sources. They flow in from a number of different resources, and that is what automatically populates the file when you are on it and doing your reviews. It is a workload-driven staffing model, and by that I mean it is not based on the number of people that you employ in your office. It doesn't look at the hours of operation, the size of your facility. It's basically looking at what we refer to as weighted deliveries, and we'll get into that a little further along, but it is workload driven. So something to keep in mind. The big 5 factors that determine the level of your office, the things that are the most important, that carry the most weight, are your possible city deliveries if you are a city delivery office, your actual rural deliveries if you are a rural or a combined office, you have city and rural. Actual HCR deliveries for those of you who are out in those locations in the country where that is an important mode of delivery for you, your rented PO boxes, as well as your revenue. So those are the main 5 things that are determining the level of your post office. Go ahead, Chad. So taking a look at just a little bit closer at those 5 items, again, that your number of deliveries, types of facilities are included. So if you have finance stations that are reporting to you, or you're an office with multiple stations and branches, you have contract postal units and community POs, or maybe you're a post plan office and you have RMPOs, those are all factored into the workload that you are responsible for. Again, the revenue units. A couple of things that might be unique to your offices is a seasonal workload component, as well as a split city delivery scenario. And we're gonna get into that when we jump into the workload model live. So the chart that you are looking at right now is the chart that the model uses to determine, one, the range of your work service credits, and what that equates to your level. So if you are looking at the middle column there that says work service credit range, 0, and of course we don't have any offices that are 0, but the scale starts with 0. 0 to 2,075 work service credits are our level 18 offices. We recently, through consultations with the Postmaster associations, split out our level 18s. We used to have just 18s. Now we have level 18s, and we have level 18Bs, or frequently referred to as 43s. And the 43s start at the 2076 and go up to the 5500, and so on for each of the other levels. If you're wondering why it's a 43 and not some other combination, we weren't able to use an 18B. Our systems will not recognize a 2-digit and an alpha designation. So we had to go searching around for a 2-digit combination that has not been used for any other position. 43 was the winner, and that's how that came to be, in case you were wondering and staying up at night how that happened. And then it goes down to the level 26 offices. The column on the left-hand side is the range. So I don't want to call it a danger zone, but it's a where the zone of tolerance for a downgrade starts. And you can see by level what that is. So if you're a level 43 and your work service credits are 2,074, and you run your analysis, your result should show that your office is in a zone of tolerance to downgrade. On the other side of that, the zone of tolerance for an upgrade, if you're say a level 22 and your office is growing by leaps and bounds, and you run your analysis and it shows that it's at 68,500, you're going to be in the zone of tolerance for an upgrade. And our models are programmed to know when to make that break off. So that's just a look at the criteria above and below being just a solid level office. And I actually have an office that is actually in the zone of tolerance, and to show you when we get to the live version what that looks like and how we deal with it. So on to the next slide, Chad, please. This is the home page for the workforce analytics team. When you go on to this page, we recommend that you do it from Google Chrome. All of the staffing models were developed on the Google Chrome application, and it runs better if you are using it from Google Chrome. It will run if you get to it from your AI or your Internet IE. But you'll see a yellow banner that comes across the top of that page telling you that that is only a temporary solution, because they are eventually going to disable that. So keep that in mind. It works exactly the same. It won't give you false information. It just does a better job. It's a little more vibrant. It's a little more agile if you're on Google Chrome, which is what it was. That's the platform they built it on. Go ahead, Chad. So from that dashboard, you would go to your staffing tools drop-down menu. When you click on that, it's going to open it up. You're going to select the link for the 150, and then it's going to send you to the worksheets, a small image, but we're going to show you live as to how to get to your actual file. The 150 file is huge because there are so many post offices across the country. So it has been split out by area. And right now it's using the old area designations, the 7 areas. At some point they will update it and it will reflect the 4 that we now have. But right now it's the old 7 areas that it's divided into. It makes the file usable. Otherwise it would be bogged down and it'd be taking you forever to get to what you needed to look at. So from that drop down, or that list, it's not a drop down, you would select your area. When you do that, it brings you to the main PS 150 model location. And it's very intuitive, it's very user-friendly, it's not hard to get to your district or your area. So you're going to make first you're going to make a selection for your district, because you've already said which area you want to go to. Then you're going to pick your district from that first drop down. You will follow that with opening up the drop down menu and scrolling down to find your post office. And once you make that selection, the tool will populate. It will automatically give you all of the information that's being programmed behind the scenes. It's going to populate everything, and it's going to give you an end result of total work service credits, which you could then compare to what you are earning, what your office earns now versus what it might be evaluated at based on your latest check of it. All of those yellow boxes are where you would need to do a manual input. And the reason you need the manual input there is because not everything could be linked to a program that could then feed your data in. So there are some things that if it applies to your office, you need to add. And we'll get into that when we are actually in the workbook itself. But something to remember when you get to this point. Next slide, Chad. The other portion of the, oh, hey, Chad, can you go back a slide? Sorry about that, everyone. I just want to point out that this slide is actually showing you basically half of the 150. So you'll hear some of us when you're just talking with us or on meetings with us, we'll talk about the left-hand side and the right-hand side, sort of like the Twix bars, the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So on the left-hand side of this form, you're going to see all of your workload credits for the most part. You're going to see your rented PO boxes. You're going to see if you have rural deliveries, it will populate here. If you have city deliveries, it's going to be here. HCRs, all of that is on this left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, or towards the center of this particular screen, you will see your revenue units and how those roll in and what the calculation is. So if you advance the slide for me, Chad, at this point, the right-hand side will illustrate if you've got intermediate offices, if you've got RMPOs, you're going to see them on this side. You can see on the lower portion of this slide, there's a number of RMPOs and all the data that goes with the RMPOs. There really is a ton of information on the 150, and it's not just on the workbook. There's just a lot of information that's traveling through this Excel program. We probably have it maxed out at its capabilities, and it's just been such a good thing to have it automated so that it can keep everybody up to date. And we do modify it. We modified it when the post-plan initiative came into play. We had to make some modifications and some adjustments so that we made sure that those of you that are APOs and have have RMPOs, that you're getting credit for those. That was probably the last really big change. The other change was when we split out our 18s from our 18Bs. So we input that. And the other thing that we added in was when we added the special exempt and the exempt status for the level 20 offices. So we try to stay on top of whatever operational changes are happening, HR issues. We're trying to do our best to stay current. Because honestly, if we're not current, what the heck are we doing? One of the other scenarios that's unique to the PS 150 is the opportunity to have your office upgraded immediately due to an exception business rule. So if you look at this form, you'll see on the left-hand side, there are a number of rows that are gray, they're shaded gray. And then on the lower right-hand side, you see that little graphic that is also gray. So I like to tell the folks in the field, gray goes with gray. They're interrelated, and they work together to determine whether or not your office should be getting an immediate upgrade. The program defaults to a no, where that arrow is pointing to the yes. And it will stay no unless the business criteria that apply to it apply. So for this business exception, it's a combination of exception credits, and the exception credits are those rows on the left-hand side. Some of them no longer apply, but remember, this is a model that went back to 1995. We have not changed those items since then. So they are still there. They just don't populate as often as they used to. So things like being a lesser or having a VMF operation, or I think there's an entry there for food stamps. Those were things we used to do through our post offices, and that's why they were included. At some point, we will probably take a look at this model, and that's where we'll start to shift out some of those rows. But it's a combination of those items. So predominantly, you're going to see entries where there are the number of carrier stations and branches, the number of finance stations and branches, and the number of contract stations. Those are predominantly what will populate in those gray rows. So you would take that information and you would go down to the little gray box and you would just follow it across. And it's basically, what is your level now? Do you have the minimum work service credits that are listed on the graphic? And what are the number of exception credits that you have? If you meet the criteria that's outlined there, that box will change from a no to a yes. And in a lot of cases, people don't understand that that actually equates to an automatic increase to the next level postmaster. If all of those, if the stars and the moons align and you've got that yes, it's like a golden ticket for an increase in your level. So when you're looking at your 150 and you're reviewing it, if it says yes, then you want to reach out pretty quickly to your district HR team, share it with them, and ask them to submit what needs to be submitted to my team so that the level of your office can be increased. Go ahead, Chad, to the next slide. So this is the show us the money. This is the revenue slide. So the revenue, a lot of people get confused with the revenue factors. And it took me, I will say it took me a little while to wrap my hands around it. That and understanding maintenance. Maintenance, I did finally conquer maintenance. I'm going a little off topic, but this revenue unit can be a little tricky. So the way that revenue rolls into your evaluation, your work service credits, is every January in the Postal Bulletin, the finance gurus establish the dollar amount that one revenue unit equates to. So when you look at your 150 and you're looking at that table that shows your revenue units and your total revenue units, understand that that is not dollars and cents. Instead, that is a representation of all of the revenue that flows into your finance number, whether it's you've got business mailers that have accounts that are you've got accounts with them and they're paying their postage or services through your finance number. It's your stamp sales, it's your PO box rentals, it's anything that comes to your finance number as a form of revenue. And what the program does is it takes the established revenue unit dollar value and it calculates, it converts your dollars and cents to revenue units. And that's what that represents on your 150. So if you're looking at that and your revenue units say 7,012 revenue units, don't panic. Don't say, well, I know I have much more revenue than that. I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. That you are correct. That 7,000 plus number represents the conversion of dollars and cents based on what one revenue unit equals. It's published in the Postal Bulletin every January. And it's converted to the revenue unit. So don't get confused by units versus dollars and cents. The PS 150 will also show you the 2 previous years revenue value. So it's there for informational purposes so that you can figure out, are you gaining in revenue or are you losing in revenue? So just some extra information for you. And then it does include your revenue from the RMPOs, and the final calculation is added to your work service total. Next slide, please, Chad. When we talked about split city delivery a little bit, I'm not going to cover this. It's there as a reference for you. We will talk about split city revenue when we get there. This happens when there have been movement of carriers from one office to another. You're sharing your resources. Customers go to one location to pick up their accountables, their packages, their hold mail, but carriers from another office are delivering the mail. So we'll get to that. Next slide, Chad. That's just showing you where your split city delivery will show up. Again, it's an automated feature. So if you know you have split city delivery, then you should be looking at that item to make sure it's there. Go ahead, Chad. ZOT, we talked a little bit about the ZOT, and we'll get more into it when we get you to the live portion. But a ZOT, it starts the clock. It requires 3 reviews in 2 years. It doesn't matter whether you're going up or down. If it stays consistent for those 3 reviews over 2 years, then we will either move to increase your level or decrease your level. Go ahead, Chad. And that where that red circle is shows you that this office in South Jersey is in the ZOT up. So that's where you would go to see if you are in a ZOT one way or the other. And that's it for the slide. So let's go live. So we have 3 or 4 offices that we're going to try and get to. I think I have like maybe 18 minutes left, which is why I sort of zoomed through those last slides. I apologize for that, but I really want to get you live into the application. So Chad's going to navigate for all of you. If you happen to have your laptops open and operating, feel free to follow along with him. So again, we're going to go from our home page on the blue. You'll see he's hovered over human resources. On the right-hand side, you will click there. You will go down and click on complement management. And voila, there is that home page that we showed you on the slides. So we're going to go to staffing tools. We're going to move down to the 150. And Chad, are we doing Hoboken first? Just shake your head. Okay. So Hoboken, we know, is in the Northeast area. So Chad's going to select the Northeast area. You'll see it down in the left-hand corner. It will download. You got to give it a second to stop scrolling. Then you click on it, and it will bring up all of the data for the post offices in the Northeast area. We'll give it a second to finish cooking and display. I feel like I should be singing the Jeopardy theme song, you know, for the final question. There we go. Okay, so one of the things that you really need to do is you need to hit that enable button. If you don't do that, you'll get a result, but it will be hard for you to save it. It'll be a little wonky. So just make sure anytime you get something that says, do you want to enable content? Do you want to enable editing? Say, yes, I want to do all of that so that you get the full functionality of our staffing models. So Chad's got his little cursor over there. He's going to pick Northern New Jersey because that is where Hoboken is. And then he's going to, when that stops scrolling, he's going to click on the next drop down and he's going to find Hoboken. And there you go. So Hoboken is, I would call this a classic post office 150 evaluation. It is a standalone building. You can see across the header that it is occupied. You do have the option in that upper right-hand corner to select one of those options, and that is, why are you doing the review? What are you doing it for? If the position is vacant, you would click on that yellow space and select an X and put an X there so the program knows this is a vacancy. If you are doing a 3-year management review, so if you're wondering what is that 3-year management review, our policies require all of us in the field, and it should be managed by your HR department, but certainly you as postmasters can be doing the same thing, we should be reviewing the levels of our office a minimum of once every 3 years. Now, typically, that our offices will vacate within that 3-year time frame, but for many of you who have been in your offices for a long time, you're happy where you are, you love your community, we should be looking at the level of your office once every 3 years. That's just the requirement, just to make sure that nothing has changed, because if something has changed, we want to know. The other option for you to do your analysis is postmaster requested. So if you think that your office needs to be changed, you would click on that. When you send your 150 into your folks at the district level, they will look at it. They will know, okay, this is a postmaster initiated review. So let's take a look at the results. The general deliveries, which is the very first line there under the current level, that is a manual entry. Please remember that general deliveries are far and few between. If you fill that cell with hundreds of general deliveries and it comes to me, I am going to question, where the heck did that number come from? Because that's the kind of gal I am. They are transient and general in nature, so just be honest and be accurate with the number of general deliveries that you put in there. But going down that line quickly, we can see that we've got a credit for PO boxes. This is a city delivery office. There are no rurals, no HCRs. We can see that they do have some stations and they have some contract post offices. So all of those are getting credit. The revenue units over to the right, you can see on all the way over a little bit further, Chad, there's your fiscal year 17, fiscal year 18 numbers. It sort of gives you the trend of what's happening with your revenue, and then it's followed by the fiscal year 19. When this form updates, and it hasn't updated in a couple of months, but that's being worked on, those years, fiscal years, will change to 18, 19, and then fiscal year 20. Your revenue information is always the previous year because we use an entire year to evaluate your office. So it seems like it's a year behind, but it's not. It's just we need a full year, and that's what happens. The sliding scale for the program, when it determines how many revenue units you have, it is a standard sliding scale. So the first 25 units are worth 1 credit each. The following 275 credits are worth 0.5 point, and so on down through that range. And the program automatically deducts the first 25, goes to the next 275, goes to the next 700. It keeps going until it runs out of credits, and everything else falls into that 0.01 credit calculation. It totals it, and for this office, I think it is 876. I apologize, I'm working off my little laptop screen, so and then it rolls that into your other totals from your left-hand side, all your weighted deliveries, and it gives you a final number. And for this office, it falls within the level 22 range. So this is your basic. It is what you would see for most post offices. This is what it would look like. And nothing, no surprises, no quirks, just it's your average everyday post office. It's falling into a level 22. It's currently earning 22, which you will see on the left-hand side. If Chad, you could hover over what it's currently at, a little further over on the left-hand side. There you go. And the program is validating that it is still a 22 on that calculation down below. Now, if that calculation said it's earning a 24, then that would be an indication that you should be on the horn to your district HR team to talk about upgrading your office. The same would be true if it says it's not earning a 22, it's earning a lower level than that. So you might see that. So something to think about. Chad, let's go to the next office.
Okay.
Because I don't think I'm going to get to all of them, but I want to get, the next office is actually in a zone of tolerance. And as I said to Chad earlier, I hope I'm not the first person to tell the postmaster if they're on this call that their office is in a zone of tolerance, because it's that's a zone of tolerance down. So while Chad's pulling that up, with the zone of tolerances, if you successfully navigate 3 annual reviews, so annual is important. It's not 3 months in a row. It's 3 annual reviews over 2 years. Then we will automatically increase the level of your office, and you will receive a 2% increase in salary. If you're going in the other direction and you are in a downgrade, a zone of tolerance downgrade status, and it is maintained for 3 annual reviews for 2 years, then we will downgrade your office. There are notifications that go along with that because it's considered an adverse action. I'm not going to get into those details, but just know that that is what happens. If at any time during that review you come out of the zone of tolerance, either up or down, and you come back into that middle range that we talked about at the beginning, then you just stay at the level that you're at and you go forward from there. So Chad, are we looking at, this is
Middlefield.
Is it Middlefield? Okay. I'm
Yes.
just going to put my glasses on really quick because maybe I can see it better. Nope, not so much. Okay. So Middlefield is, this is a office that is in a zone of tolerance down. And Chad, if you can just sort of swirl around that little ZOT down indicator. So you can see that the program has given this office credit for their PO boxes, credit for their rural deliveries. They have a station, it looks like, which is an RMPO. So if you just look a little bit to the right, you'll see all the RMPO information is there. And It is, unfortunately, right now, it's a level 20 office, but it is in a zone of tolerance to be reduced. And if we scroll down a little bit, Chad, just so everybody can see the zone of the chart, the ZOT chart. Uh-oh, Chad, did you freeze?
Can you see it? Is
Not
it
yet.
frozen?
Well, you're back.
Okay.
Can you scroll down? Can you try scrolling down?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, is it not showing?
No.
Sorry, there's an issue with the signal, but maybe it'll refresh here in a second.
Okay. If you have your slides in front of you, you would see, I apologize, sometimes, the internet and all of that screws us up. Here we go, it's starting to move. Try going down a little bit more, Chad. It will show that this office, for the level of credits that it has, is falling into that left-hand column. There we go. Into the left-hand column, which is putting it into the zone of tolerance down. A lot of people will ask, well, how do I know when to start the clock? Here at headquarters, we do not archive all of these, all of your offices every month. So we rely on the districts and the postmasters to keep an eye on it, whether it's going up or down from in the ZOT. And we tell people that because in order to justify upgrading or downgrading your office, you will need to provide those annual reviews. That's the 3 annual reviews over 2 years in order to validate the change in the level of your office. So if you are regularly checking your office, I would recommend that as postmasters, you look at it once a month and you find, oh, I'm in the zone of tolerance, up or down, that's your starting point. Generate a 150, you save it yourselves and forward it to your district HR team and say, I'm letting you know my office is in a ZOT. That's your starting point. So let's say it happens today. So next February of 2022, you're going to come back. You can look at it as often as you want in between, because if you fall out of that zone of tolerance and you're back in good graces with the program, then you can stop worrying about the ZOT. But the key one to remember to do is a year later. So if you go a year later and it's still the same, then you're going to tuck it aside and you're going to look at it again. And you're going to keep going until you determine whether or not you need to make the change. So Chad has just told me I have 5 minutes, which I think, Lisa, if you don't mind me going over a minute or two, I want to get one more 150 in.
Absolutely not. Keep going. You're fine. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. We had one more queued up to go.
Okay.
I know I'm, I'm showing you guys a ton of information. I could spend days on a 150, but I'm hoping that you're getting enough that makes you feel a little more comfortable about the program, what it does, what you should be doing in terms of the level of your office. The best thing that you can do for yourselves is to keep up with your PO box rented information. If you haven't taken boxes out of service, you should do that. If you've got rentals that you haven't recorded yet, you should do that, because we're grabbing all of that information. Make sure that your carriers are updating their edit books, their rent books. Everybody calls them something different. You want to make sure that all of your AMS information is being updated monthly. That's where your weighted deliveries are coming from. And your revenue is obviously coming from what you're doing across your counters in your lobbies every day, as well as all of the incentives in the programs and the major mailers that we interact with. So those are the things, those are what's in your control and what you can do to maintain your level and the health of your post office, and maybe increase your information. So the last one we have is
Deer Isle.
Deer Island, Northern New England. Yep. Okay. So I wanted to just show you this one quickly because it has a couple of things that some of the others didn't have that we looked at. So this is a level 18 office. It is it's an APO with post plan. You'll see that little AP in green up at the top next to the name of the office. AP stands for Administrative Post Office. if you had noticed with Hoboken, it just said post office, that's because it is not part of post plan. So down to the right, you will see this office has a number of RMPOs. They have 4 RMPOs, and it lists by office each of the important data points that get included in your, if you are the AP postmaster, you're getting credit for PO boxes rented in your RMPOs. You're getting credit for delivery if it's there in AMS. You're getting credit for the revenue units that are there. And so the way that this works is that underneath, Chad, if you would just go to on the right-hand side under the revenue calculation, it gives you a total for your work service credits for the post office, which for this office is a little more than 1,800, I think. Underneath that is the work service credits of your RMPOs. So that does not include the revenue units. The revenue units are rolled into the revenue unit calculation before you start. And so that's already included, and it is all rolled into the overall total for your office. So this office it's a level 43. It remains a level 43 based on this calculation. You can see how the RMPOs are listed. It also has some intermediate rural deliveries. In this instance, they are the administrative office. They do not own the carrier that actually delivers this mail. So instead of getting full credit for the deliveries that are in there, it happens to be in there, one of their RMPOs. They get credit. They get 0.3 of a point credit for each delivery point because they are the office. That RMPO is the office that is dealing with the customers where they have package pickups, whole mail, things like that. The carrier is coming from another location, and that office would get the 0.7 of a credit, 0.7 and 0.3 equaling the 1 point credit for a rural delivery.
Patty, could you just clarify what a level 43 is, what office that is? Someone was just asking that.
It's
Thank
an
you.
18B. So we have 18s and we have 18Bs. We also, because I think I had explained it earlier, we couldn't do a 2-digit and an alpha in our systems. So we had to find a 2-digit level for the office that hadn't been used, and 43 was it. So when we split the level 18s out, we split them between level 18s, which are 0 to 2,076 credits. And then our 18Bs or 43s, which go up to 5,500. So that is the difference. And I think that's it.
Oh, you want to mention about how we save them?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Chad. When you save any of our staffing models, please don't do file save as. That file comes to us, we open it up, and the entire spreadsheet clears. All the data that you entered in disappears. And that's because that's not the way to save them. On every single one of our files, whether it's a supervisor authorization, whether it's your level for your post office, there are links on our files that give you the option to save your work. So I think, Chad, you might have to scroll up a little bit so they can see where that link is. But it's at the top of the form, and you just want to, it'll say save the file, basically is what it says. You will hit that link. It will do some working. It'll be doing some funky things in the background. You'll see it flash and do several things. And then it will come up and it will give you a format for saving it, and it will ask you where you want to save it. You can save it to wherever you like, but that's the proper way to save the form, and that is the file that you'll send to the district, and the district will in turn send it to us if it needs some additional workload. Thanks for the reminder on that, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, I think.
Okay.
I'm at like 8:14, Lisa, so I don't really want to cut into your time taking questions. So if you all have sent things to the chat or you're sending them to Dan, just to reiterate what Dan said, he will get those to Chad and me. We will answer them, get them back to Dan, and he will distribute them. So
That's great. Thank you, Patty. Chad, if you could just pass the ball back to me, and I will share my laptop, and that would be
Okay.
great.
unless you need us to stay on, Lisa or Dan, we're going to probably hop off if that's okay.
That is totally fine. Thank you. It was nice to meet both of you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Patty. Thank you,
All right.
Chad.
Thanks for
You're
inviting
welcome.
us.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm sure you can. Dan, you're still on.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to just put my camera on really quickly just so that you could see me, because we were having issues with bandwidth. So just so you can put a name with a face, my name is Lisa Roussel, and then what I'll do is I'll probably turn my camera off just in case I lose everyone. I just want to make sure we have enough bandwidth. But thank you, Dan, for having me here today. I am the Senior Account Manager, and I work closely with many federal agencies and U.S. Post Office. So we've been working with UPMA for a number of years, but we administer the Federal Long-Term Care Insurance Program, known as the FELTSIP, and also benefits. I'm sure many of you are familiar with benefits. It's the Federal Dental and Vision Program, and we do, administration, premium administration, enrollment. I work in our customer department with education and outreach. So my job is to provide education and awareness about the Federal Long-Term Care Insurance Program. So we have a great partnership with UPMA and all of the post office. The U.S. Postal Service is one of our agencies I work very closely with, along with NASA, U.S. courts, and let's see, a couple of other large, I can't even think of, USDA courts and so forth. So Postal Service is one of the largest, I believe, over 500,000. So it's a privilege and an honor just to kind of go over what are some of the highlights of the Federal Long-Term Care Insurance Program. All of you are eligible for this because you are federal employees, you're postal employees, so you're eligible. My goal is just to go over a number of slides. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. I promise to try to end right at the 7:30 mark. So thank you for joining us. And at the end, if you have any questions, I can certainly take some questions via the chat, but certainly I want to give you some resources. First of all, what is long-term care? A lot of people don't have an understanding about what long-term care is. So let me just bring this to the next slide. And I don't know why we're having a little delay with my slides going down, but there we go. So a lot of times people think long-term care is nursing homes, but it's really custodial, informal care that we're talking about. It's really that informal care, not that you receive when you go to the doctor's office or the hospital. So it's personal care or related services, and it could be, something you could go on a long-term care event because of a chronic illness, an injury, a disability, or the aging process. So you just never know. But that's really what long-term care is. A lot of people have a misunderstanding about what long-term care is. And it's, why do we plan for long-term care? And, I think a lot of times people think, and I don't know why my slides are just doing this, but it's just taking a little bit longer here. I'm going to stop my camera. I think that's the reason. I apologize here, folks, but I'm going to stop the video. There we go. So why do we plan for long-term care? 70% of people turning age 65 can expect to use some form of long-term care at some point of their lives. So when we talk about planning, we're talking about preserving your assets. And in today's reality, where people are living longer, the longer we live, the higher probability that we're going to need some sort of long-term care. And long-term care can best be described by the things we do every day, such as bathing. They're called activities of daily living. So bathing, dressing, eating, continence, toileting. Those are the activities, transferring, get in and out of the bed. If you can't perform 2 of those activities for 90 days or more, then that would constitute a long-term care event. Or let's say you had a cognitive impairment, such as Alzheimer's, that would be a long-term care event. So just so you have a good understanding of what we're talking when we talk about long-term care. So the bottom line is, as we get older, we may need long-term care. It may be from an accident, injury, or anything like that. Let's see. My slides are just taking a little bit longer to advance, and I don't know why. Could just be the bandwidth. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why they're not going here. Dan, can you see that my slides are not advancing?
Yes, I
Yeah.
see that they are not advancing.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. We're just, well, folks, you may not have a presentation tonight. That's okay. You already had one. The bottom line is, we can certainly, as Dan knows, we can offer a webinar to all of UPMA at some point as well, but we're working with UPMA to support them and their mission to provide education as well to all of your members. And we work with all post offices across the country. We do these webinars for all of these different agencies. And so what I wanted to do tonight was just to do an introduction of what long-term care was, and I had some slides to go over. So for whatever reason, my slides are not advancing, and we'll have to look into why this isn't happening. Oh, there we go. They just suddenly appeared. So we'll see how we go. But a lot of people think about long-term care in terms of planning. They think they're going to just use the money that they have. But remember that one long-term care event can totally erode your assets. So that's why you should think about having a long-term care program. And long-term care isn't for everyone. And I will say this, some people just may not be able to afford long-term care. And when I say afford, the sooner you get into a program like this, it behooves you, because when you're younger, you get into the program because it costs less. The older you get, every year it gets more expensive. So it's not too expensive to get into long-term care. It's just if people get into it later in life, it is more costly. And this is a medically underwritten product. So in other words, you have to be in relatively good health to buy this program. But again, it's not for everyone. Most federal employees can afford a long-term care program, a plan. The goal is to get into it earlier. A lot of people think that TRICARE for Life, or the FEHBP is going to cover you. That's not the case. The FEHBP is wonderful. All of you are eligible. You probably have the plan. I'm married to a federal employee, so I have the FEHBP, but it covers acute diagnosable conditions that we're either expected to recover from or stabilize from. It doesn't cover custodial care that we're talking about that's associated with long-term care. I'm not the expert on Medicare or Medicaid or VA. I would tell you, if you are a veteran, thank you so much, but certainly go to va.gov, go to Medicaid. Most federal employees aren't going to qualify for Medicaid. They have a 5-year look-back period. You essentially have to spend down your assets. Medicare does have a skilled nursing facility. You have to, the first day 1 to day 20, it's paid for, but day 20 to 21 to day 100, you have a copay, and then 100, you're on your own. So you can't rely on Medicaid or these other programs to cover long-term care, and that's the point of these slides here. And because it's taking a long time to advance, I've advanced it and it's not going, but we'll see. We'll see if, okay. So FLTCIP provides comprehensive coverage for care, and it's in a variety of settings. And one of the things when we talk about settings, we're talking about you can receive long-term care in a nursing home, an assisted living facility, at home, hospice, inpatient and outpatient. The bottom line, folks, is most people want to age in place. So when you think about having a long-term care policy, especially with COVID, a lot of people were in facilities. They would have loved to have been at home. And so even some loved ones took people out of their facilities and brought them home if they could. But most people, statistically speaking, when we talk about long-term care and the FLTCIP experience, most people want to age in place. They want to be at home. They have better outcomes, better have efficacy because their loved ones are taking care of them. And it seems to be a better environment for them. Again, some people like facilities. But again, my slides are just really taking a long time to advance. So I don't want to waste any time here with everybody. We've got about 5 minutes left. So Dan, I'm going to stop my presentation and I'm going to turn this over to you to just talk to these folks. And we can see what's happening in the future for why my slides aren't advancing. So thank you so much for having me. And I will tell all of you, go to ltcfeds.com. If you have any questions, there's great resources at that site. You can figure out how much it would cost. You can call and speak to one of our consultants. We also have care coordinators. They're registered nurses, and they're there to assist you throughout your plan of care. The bottom line is it is here for you. You're a federal employee, you're postal employees. You can apply for this coverage. Not only can you apply, but certain qualified family members as well. So just know that your parents, your in-laws, Your children, adult children age 18 can apply for this coverage, your spouse. So it's not just you as a federal employee. As long as you're eligible for the FEHBP, you can apply. You don't have to have the FEHBP. So just know that, share this with your qualified relatives because they can apply for this coverage even if you're not interested. So thank you so much. Sorry for the issue here, but Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap the session up for everybody.
All right, thank you, Lisa. On behalf of myself and UPMA, I want to thank everybody for getting on this evening. As I said early on, our intention is that we're probably going to offer these type of training sessions on different topics every month going forward. So if you have ideas of topics that you would like to see covered, as far as tonight's presentation is concerned, what Patty covered on the 150, if you have any questions that you would like to see answered, please email those to me. It's dhines, H-E-I-N-S, @unitedpma.org, or you can just go to our national website, unitedpma.org, and find my email on there. Send the questions to me. I'll get those over to Patty and her team, and they will shoot the answers back to me, and I will get them out to all of you. But I hope that you found this beneficial. Someone sent me an email and said, I see that I'm the only one on other than the presenters. With the WebEx situation, that's just how it shows. It only shows you as an attendee and then whoever the panelists are. But I was very pleased. We had 52 people that took part in this training tonight. And for our first time out of the box, I think that's a very good number to start with. So with that, I will say good night to everyone. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for getting on. If you found it beneficial, we are doing another class next Thursday night. It's going to start at 9 o'clock Eastern time. The connection information is on our website. It will also be in my Friday message that I send out tomorrow. So watch for that. And I will also send out a message to all of the chapter officers to share however they want to share it. And I know that this session was shared a lot on Facebook. I appreciate everyone's help in getting the word out on what we're trying to do. And another thing that we're trying to bring another benefit to you as members of UPMA. If you are not a member of UPMA and want more information, again, just go to our website, unitedpma.org. So thank you, Lisa, for hosting this, and FedPoint, and for working with us on this project. And thank you. I will send a thank you to Patty and Chad for their help. But with that, I will say good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.